There's Kay really enjoying her job as a real estate agent. I tell you what, there are times in this business that you go, you know, there'd be a lot of things worse to do than being a real estate person. Sitting up there on that balcony, looking over beautiful Glenelg Beach from Platinum Apartments. And hasn't Adelaide got some sensational spots? Glenelg, I know you looked at the Norwood property in SA's finest, and just to be seconds away from coffees and so convenient to everything. Just a terrific place, and very proud to be a South Australian here in Adelaide. Now, we won't get too parochial, we better get back to it, Tim. We've got some questions that we need to get through.
Absolutely.
So should we get started on it? We've got Dana Vincent, who writes to us and says, I've found a house I love which is for sale, and I'm going to put an offer on it. Is it better to offer a bit less than what I'm prepared to pay, or put forward the maximum amount that I would pay?
Okay, well, first of all, I think for Dana's benefit, we should mention that the person who's selling the house is acting for the owner. Not for her, for the owner. So that person's job is to get the best price for the owner.
It's a really, really significant point, because the people who are not involved in real estate often ask that question, don't they?
They do, and they'll often tell the agent all sorts of things that they perhaps are better not knowing from the negotiation side of the buyer's point of view. But I think that Dana perhaps then should find out, with that knowledge on board, should find out what the agent's process is going to be whilst the offer's presented. Is the agent going to phone other buyers? Is her offer going to be divulged to other people? Which, from my point of view, is an absolute no-no, but you never know what other agents are going to do. So the process is really important. So some communication with the agent to find all of that out. And another helpful tip on the end of all of that, once you've made your best offer, I reckon it's really worthwhile putting a time limit on the offer. What are your thoughts?
The time limit is important because it saves the agent, well, it allows the agent to go legitimately to his principal, which is the vendor, and say to them, look, we really need to make a decision within this time frame or this offer lapses. Now, the difficulty that the agent has is that we are in a fiduciary obligation with the vendor, so we have to take care of you as a purchaser, Dana, but at the end of the day, our job is to get every single last cent that we can possibly get out of you. So my really strongest advice is to get your own independent person to assist you who's done a lot of the negotiation. We do a lot of that. We do it often for free because it's just a service that a lot of our sales guys offer.
Yep.
You have done it hundreds of times, Tim, over the years. And let us help you steer you through the process. It's very important to understand, and the most fundamental thing is that the agent acts for the owner of the property. So if you tell them that you'll pay more money for it, he or she must tell their vendor that you will pay it, because that is their job, and that's not often understood. It's also important not to be untruthful. So when we say, not to necessarily disclose information that's unnecessary, you don't tell lies or tell porcupines or whatever you want to call it, or untruths. You be very straight back, but be quite clear about it, and make it clear to the agent that this is your offer, this is my parameters, and as a golden rule for the 30 odd years that I've been in real estate, you normally be 5 to 10% under an asking price is not offensive, and it's a good starting point. A lot of owners at the moment won't negotiate at all, but it's certainly not going to offend anyone if you're within those parameters. They have the opportunity to come back with a counter offer, and then it can go to and fro several times. Just keep it open and honest, but don't overdo the amount of information that you're given, that's given to the vendor's agent, and get some help. Email
Good point.
Paul Lockley writes, how can I put myself in the best position to maximise my chances of being approved for a home loan? Now, this was covered with Mark earlier, but over to you, Tim.
Well, let's have a look at that, because Paul, if he's looking to apply right now, hopefully has a number of things in place. Hopefully he has a guaranteed savings plan, certainly over the last 6 months, obviously secure employment. We hope that he's put together a reasonable size deposit. And Mark certainly mentioned a number of ways of helping with that, whether it's through parents and so forth, but a deposit's important. All of the paperwork surrounding his financials should be in place. And I think then to have an idea of what he's looking to spend, so he can sit down with his financial advisor or bank manager and say, here's what I'm looking to achieve. Is this going to work for me? I've put everything in place for you to tick all the boxes.
Thanks, Tim. And Mark's comments, I made a note of them knowing that this question was coming up. It's back to fundamentals for the banks. Consider family equity. It's critical and the criteria is now critical, so you need to meet the criteria and make sure that you've actually done your homework. It's very important to get organised. The third one we've got time for just from Sally Casa. Sally, here we go. What rights are home buyers entitled to during the cooling off period of the house sale, Tim?
Cool. Big question to answer, but firstly, of course, what is cooling off? Cooling off is a period immediately after the purchaser has received all their paperwork, their contract, their Form 1s. It's 2 business days after the receipt of those papers. It's available only to people who purchase by private treaty, not by auction, tender and the like.
And not companies as well.
And not companies as well. And it's an opportunity perhaps to get a building inspection done, but certainly to check the information that you've been provided about your property to make sure that it measures up with what you're hoping to achieve in your use of the property. At that time, if it all measures up, all good. If you're not happy with it, you can say, no, I'm not moving forward for whatever reason you have.
Another very common misunderstanding about cooling off is that you have some automatic entitlement to go back through the property during the cooling off period. Not the case. You may be allowed back, but not necessarily. So just bear that in mind as well. That's all we've got time for, Tim. We need to get to hot properties and have a look at what's hot in the market and what's coming up. So let's go and have a look at that right now. Well, I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you're a first home buyer or a renter, I hope you got a lot out of it. For those of you that love getting inside the mansions, next week we look at a property in Ross Trevor. It is huge. You will love it. For those of you that are in the market, be sure to tune in next Wednesday for TOOP TV.